legend of Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, as it is often called, goes beyond recorded history and covers the entire planet. In North America, and particularly in the Northwest, you can hear tales of the 7-foot-tall, hairy, man-like creature walking through the woods. Bigfoot is known by many names within many different cultures, although the name Bigfoot is generally attributed to the mountainous western region of North America. The common name Sasquatch comes from the Salish Sasquatch, while the Algonquin of the north central region of the continent refers to the Witico or the Wendigo. Other countries tell of a large creature that seems almost human, that has special powers and characteristics. The Ojibwe of the northern plains believed the Rougarou appeared in times of danger, and other nations agreed that the hairy apparition was a messenger of warning, telling man to change his ways. North American settlers began reporting sightings during the late 1800s and into the 1900s, with the occasional finding of footprints, sporadic encounters, and even a few grainy photos and videos, adding fuel to the fire of the mystical beast. Those who claim to have seen Bigfoot have described everything from a large upright ape to an actual hairy human, sometimes standing over 8 feet tall and described as powerfully built. There are many organizations that have been set up to study and document the Bigfoot and prove its existence, and groups regularly search the Northwest woods, hoping to find the ultimate proof. Nearly every culture has a legend of the giant bipedal creature, which is essentially like a Bigfoot, but has a different name. The Yeti is a creature that 19th and 20th century explorers claimed to have seen. The creature is very similar to the Bigfoot, except that it has a lighter fur. But could this just be a polar bear? It would be an easy mistake to make in the midst of a snowstorm. Vision is severely hampered in a snowstorm, and if people are severely tired, hungry, or thirsty during an expedition, it would be easy to see a polar bear and mistake it for some kind of yeti, especially since polar bears can stand on 2 feet and even walk short distances. Funding was given to many explorers to go and find proof of the Yeti. The Orang Pendek is a mystical creature that inhabited the forests and mountains of Sumatra. This creature was covered in short hair and was only around 50 inches tall. Yet this is still considered by many to be a Bigfoot-like creature because it was bipedal. It walked upright like humans. It is interesting that such a creature would be considered to be Bigfoot-like when it simply was not big at all. But it is the human-like qualities of the Bigfoot that separates it from just being another species of ape that maybe went extinct. It is the fact that Bigfoot is unique in this way, and is thought to maybe have intelligence similar to man, or be some kind of missing link between man and ape that makes it so fascinating. The Yowie is a legend from Australia that the native Aboriginal people apparently lived alongside. The Yowie was around 7 foot tall and was also called the Yahoo Devil, and was investigated and written about in the 19th century. Legend has it they were cannibals, but this could just be a myth. Kikomba is a bipedal creature that is said to have lived in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, that is said to have a look very similar to the chimpanzee, except that it walked upright, which made it appear to be more human-like. But could the sightings of these creatures be a result of jungle madness, combined with the stories that locals have told people of? It is well documented that extended time in the jungle can make people go crazy. It is the fact that once you are in the jungle, you cannot see anything but jungle. You walk and walk and walk, and yet all you see for days or weeks is green and more green. For this reason, the SAS entrance process involves extended time in the jungle. It is a great way to see which recruits have the mental strength under tough conditions. It can lead into many hallucinations in the heat of the jungle. So it would not be such a huge stretch for someone who has been told by locals to watch out for some kind of humanoid beast, to see such a beast if they were tired and had been confined physically and visually to the jungle for many weeks. It would be quite likely to start seeing things in the shadows and the streams of light that pass through the canopies and thick vegetation and mist of the jungle. Maybe more so at night. You are in the jungle trying to sleep, in the mist and humidity. You hear a noise. You see some of the vegetation move in the sunlight. The mind can do strange things to people in those situations. Near darkness can create all kinds of shapes from all kinds of things. The Cherokee, who are an indigenous population in the United States, have a legend of a Bigfoot creature that lived in the woods. They were called the Mythical Tribe. In Cherokee legend, these creatures were created by God and sent to help humans and watch over them. The Cherokee people would collect berries and leave them at the edge of their hunting grounds for the mythical creatures to eat. It is said that these mythical creatures would then watch out for the humans and protect them when they were hunting. Sent by God, the Creator, to watch out over the humans, has the Bigfoot creatures down as being almost like angels. When we think of angels, we instantly think of a creature that is incredibly human-like, except for the fact that it has wings. A human-like creature in the fact that it is bipedal, walks on 2 legs and stands upright, except for the fact that it has a particular animalistic feature. In the case of the Bigfoot, it is the fact that it has more hair than a typical human. In the case of angels, it is the fact that they have wings. Many are now talking about the idea that Bigfoot is an alien, an extraterrestrial. At first, such a notion seems ridiculous, especially since the usual and natural notion of the Bigfoot is that it is a mystical beast from the past. Putting it in the realm of science fiction is quite the turnaround, but perhaps that is the reason no one has ever found the bones or corpse of a Bigfoot. The other reason the idea of Bigfoot being an alien seems ridiculous at first glance is because Bigfoot, the hairy beast, does not fit the usual preconception of what an alien looks like. When we think of aliens, we see the often quite small, bald humanoid with a large head and large black eyes. The natural notion of this comes from the thought process that a species that is advanced enough to be able to successfully complete interstellar travel would have evolved so much that it would no longer have a single hair on its body. This is an assumption based on the observation of our species on Earth. Yes, it is true that as mankind has evolved and developed, mankind has lost much of its hair. The average human has much still being very useful. Imagine on Earth, you go out in your shorts, and then suddenly the temperature drops to minus 30 degrees centigrade. It would be very hard to carry enough clothes to compensate for such a dramatic change in temperature. So in a situation like that, having hair on your body that can instantly react by trapping warm air near to your body would be a massive advantage in terms of survival. If it is a massive advantage in terms of survival, then the laws of natural selection will not only keep that characteristic within the physiology and the genome, but will develop it to its most usefulness. If we humans lived on such a planet, it is unlikely we would have lost our body hair, as it would have helped us survive in such massive temperature fluctuations. All species of creatures, from animals to insects, have particular mating rituals and ways of choosing a mating partner. These customs are instinctively hardwired into our behavior. It could be that these mystical alien Bigfoot creatures have some kind of a mating ritual similar to that of the male peacock, where the male, in order to appear healthy and worthy to mate, must show off his strength by showing off the fertility of his hairy coat, and as such these creatures did not evolve to wear clothes. And so we see the Bigfoot as being under-evolved compared to ourselves, because of their thick coat of hair. In fact, this may not be the case. It may be that they are simply instinctively showing off the health of their fertility. It could also be something to do with a cultural or religious belief. It could be like a reversal of the Muslim custom of wearing the hijab. Perhaps it is written in one of the great books of their religion on the Bigfoot planet that males must always have their fertility on display. Perhaps they did at one time start wearing clothes, but because this caused a massive drop in procreation on the planet, that put the entire survival of the species at risk. And as such, it was decreed by the government or by the religious order that the wearing of clothes should be banned. It could be said that this is dangerous, but one must remember that the creatures of our planet do not freeze to death. Even the creatures of the coldest parts of our planet do not suffer this fate, because they are evolved to deal with it. It could be that what we see as hair is in fact a physical characteristic that has a completely different function. It could be that the hairs are in fact sensory pods, like many insects on our planet have. These hairs could absorb particles like our noses do, or inform the creature of air pressure that indicates if a storm is coming. It could be that these hairs give an array of perfectly timed pheromones that allow these creatures to communicate without making sound, or without actually being able to see each other. This would be hugely helpful for hunting or evading a predator. Imagine you see a lion coming towards one of your friends who is hidden behind a tree. You could shout out and tell him, but then the lion would likely race towards yourself. If you could somehow chemically tip him off about the oncoming danger without alerting the predator to your position, he would have a much better chance of survival. It would be like a chemical telepathy. It could be that this alien Bigfoot species does not ingest food like us, but instead gains its energy from a process similar to what the plants of our world do when they photosynthesize light. Each hair on the alien Bigfoot's body could be like a leaf, catching the sun's rays and using the energy from the rays to perform a chemical reaction to create stored energy within their bodies. It could be that there is a deadly insect-spread disease on the Bigfoot alien planet, something akin to malaria on planet Earth. The hairs could actually be glands that pump out a mist of insect repellent that deters the insects from biting them. In Africa, around 500,000 people die every year from malaria. It would be hugely advantageous if humans had evolved a natural insect repellent like this. It could be that the hairs actually allow water to be pumped from the body to cool them down. We humans sweat to keep cool. We allow water to flow onto the surface of our bodies. And as the sweat evaporates, the latent heat evaporates with it and cools us down. Dogs do not have sweat glands. Instead, they pant. They stick out their tongues and allow the water to evaporate from their tongues. What we see as hairs on the alien Bigfoot's body could in fact be like thousands of tongues that enable the Bigfoot to control its temperature in the hottest of climates. It could be that our planet is much hotter than theirs, so therefore wearing no clothes is a must for them, so that they can use the natural ability of their cooling fur to keep them at the right temperature. These alien Bigfoot creatures may walk past the plants of their world, brushing up against them, taking and depositing pollen as they do so. And it could be that they started wearing clothes and then realized how important their coat of hair is for the biodiversity and biohealth of their planet. It could be that what we see as a Bigfoot is in fact an organic suit that they wear to protect themselves from the germs and viruses of our planet, whilst also making them resemble apes. They may be under the preconception that the Bigfoot costume allows them to blend in to the natural world of our planet. This could be their technique for not being spotted as aliens when they visit. Not as familiar with the apes of our planet, and therefore not aware of the subtle differences between the various species as much as we are, they may think that their ape-like organic protective suits are a great way to blend in. These alien Bigfoot creatures may be completely unaware that humans have seen them as being different from the apes, and as such talk about them as being mystical creatures of the forest. But why would these creatures want to come to Earth? Perhaps they are foragers that come to collect samples to take back to their home world for analysis. They are like scientists that collect samples from other planets so that they can analyze them and learn more about life. Just like the biologists of our world travel across the planet looking for new species to investigate. Bigfoot could be the police force of the galaxy. They could be tracking mankind's existence, ready to invite us into the galactic community once they feel we have become advanced enough to join. Perhaps they think there is great potential in the human race, but because of our nature, getting us into wars, they keep holding back from inviting us, hoping that one day we will learn the lessons of the past. Perhaps they are like international conservationists. Perhaps like the film The Day the Earth Stood Still. They will one day annihilate us, as they come to the conclusion that we are bad for planet Earth, as we have killed off so much of the biodiversity of the planet, and we are continually polluting it. Perhaps they used to visit Earth long before humans came along, and want to restore it to its former glory. Perhaps the Bigfoots that we see are on a scouting mission to find a new home for their own species as their own planet is dying. The fact that we are abusing our planet could result in them believing that they have the right to take it over. Perhaps they live naturally and culturally a very spiritual race. Perhaps they are completely in sync with the nature of the circle of life and see it as their role in the galaxy to restore balance and protect biodiversity. On their home planet, they may live in the treetops, like the Wookiees do on Kashyyyk in Star Wars. We think that a more animalistic creature could not be advanced, but it depends on when they were first created. As a race, they could have had a head start on us. We may be a naturally more intelligent race with a faster pace of learning and innovation, but they got started earlier as a race because maybe their planet formed earlier, or the first DNA molecule was created earlier on their planet, which resulted in life getting started before life got started on our planet. Life has been on Earth for 3.7 billion years, meaning that all things being the same, if life started on their planet just 1 million years earlier, then they would be much further ahead in terms of technology, even if they were slightly less intelligent. 1 million years compared to 3.7 billion years. The mathematics are simple. That is only 0.0024 of 1% of the time that life has existed on Earth. When you look at the massive, dramatic increase in technology that we have had since the first microchip was invented, it is incredible to think where we will be in 1,000 years' time. The fact of the matter is, different planets form at completely different times, and therefore life on various planets really could and will have formed at different times. There may be a planet out there on a new solar system that has just witnessed the development of its first DNA molecule. That would put that planet 3.7 billion years behind ours in the development of life. It would be extremely likely that another species out there got 1 billion years head start on us. Even with half the natural levels of intelligence and ability for ingenuity, such a species would be massively ahead of us in technology. It could be that the Bigfoot alien creatures that we have seen on our planet are in fact a subspecies of a more intelligent ruling class species that resides on their planet. The Bigfoots could be, in a sense, like the worker ants in an ant colony, simply there to do the hard labor. An expendable workforce which is sent out throughout the galaxy for some kind of function. Perhaps if we humans were able to observe the other more intelligent subspecies of their planet, we would not then presume that the Bigfoot creatures are under-evolved compared to ourselves. We naturalistically presume that any intelligent species would be similar to ourselves, in that all would be created equal. There would not be a subdivision. However, on an alien planet, this is not necessarily likely to be the case. Especially since we see this separation in creatures like ants on our Earth. Ants have worker ants and soldier ants, which are designed specifically to function differently to make them suited to their particular function within the colony. Now, some would say that ants are not an intelligent species, so therefore this example is not applicable. But just because we humans have not evolved to be a split-function species does not mean that on another planet, somewhere out there in the galaxy, it is not possible. In fact, from pure logic, it would have to be an advantage that a species would have the different tools of physiology to supplement division of labor. That the physical design is designed for a specific job could be hugely advantageous. This could be the case for the Bigfoot species. It's just that no one has ever seen the other, more highly evolved looking component of their species. People seem to almost exclusively think of Bigfoot as being a creature from the past, or perhaps a link between man and ape. Again, the fact that such a creature has more hair than us makes us presume this creature is less evolved. But perhaps in the future, mankind, having left Earth and living on another planet, may find its hair growing back if hair becomes advantageous to survival or breeding. The simple fact is, we have no idea what evolutionary selection pressures there may be on distant planets that could make having hair advantageous as it was on Earth. That, coupled with one of the aforementioned functions of the hair that makes it functional beyond just keeping warm, could lead the human race to evolve into something that looks like the Bigfoot. Evolution is not necessarily a one-way process. If conditions and therefore selection pressures change, then functions and characteristics of the past that are beneficial in a particular situation could come back. Could the Bigfoots be humans from the future who are visiting Earth just as we visit a museum or theme park? Perhaps they are collecting samples for a museum or data for historical organizations. It could even be a school field trip. It is, however, possible that Bigfoot is neither a mythical creature of the past or an alien. It could be that Bigfoot is some kind of genetic experiment that escaped from the lab. An experiment to see if scientists could produce a less evolved link between man and ape. Of course, this all seems somewhat far-fetched, but then again, the myth of Bigfoot in itself seems a little far-fetched. And the idea that Bigfoot is an alien would have most doubters not convinced at all. But it could be a little simpler and less suspicious than that of a purposely top-secret government experiment. It could be that a virus has infected an individual or family that lives in a remote area and left them transformed in some way. There are many diseases that physically affect the way a human looks. There are many diseases that can make humans appear to be more animalistic. Lymphatic filariasis, commonly known as elephantiasis, is a painful and profoundly disfiguring disease. It is caused by infection with parasites. They are transmitted through the bites of infected mosquitoes. A person that has been infected with this disease could have unusually large feet, and therefore could be responsible for the apparent Bigfoot footprints that many enthusiasts have found. Hypertrichosis, also known as werewolf syndrome, is a condition characterized by excessive hair growth, which can be anywhere on a person's body. It can affect both men and women, However, it is very rare. Congenital hypertrichosis is believed to be a genetic disorder that is inherited or occurs as a result of spontaneous mutation. Hypertrichosis has no cure. It could be that Bigfoot is a person who has hypertrichosis, and since there is no cure, he decided to hide from society in the woods as he felt like a freak every time someone looked at him. Most people that claim to have seen a Bigfoot have only caught a glimpse from far away, or have seen him at night. So at a distance, and with the lack of clarity of night, it would not take much for such a person to appear to be a Bigfoot. But could it be even simpler than that? It could be just a man who has decided for spiritual reasons to be a naturist, to live in the woods, wear no clothes, and never cut or groom his hair. Again, from the distance and at night, such a person, particularly if he was naturally a more hairy person than most, would appear to be a Bigfoot. So, why is there such a fascination with Bigfoot? It is in human nature to be neurologically stimulated and therefore interested in stories of things out of the ordinary. The simple fact is, a story, whether real or not, about something spectacular gives us a break from the usual mundanity of human life. It is entertaining, which is why so many of us like watching fantasy films. This is something humans have always enjoyed. We know this from the cave paintings of the most primitive humans. We all have a part of us that is happy to fly away to the land of fantasy and make believe. But some of us have that tendency more than others. It is for this reason that some of us are way more interested and willing to believe in modern phenomenon like UFOs and aliens visiting Earth, whereas others are more likely to believe in creatures from the past like dragons, goblins, and unicorns. Some people are instantly fascinated by tales of the past and of mystical, mysterious beasts. And for this reason, the Bigfoot phenomenon has remained as popular as it ever was. Despite the fact that although many have claimed to see the Bigfoot, there has been no solid evidence that the creature exists. The concept of Bigfoot could have started from a story that someone made up, that then got repeated and turned into a myth, like dragons and unicorns. Many people believe that dragons once roamed the earth, despite the fact that there is no evidence to prove it. Dragons could be someone's imagination running wild, having seen a very large lizard. Yet despite this, people have passed stories around for millennia, to the extent that the mythical creature is still remembered to this day. And like the Bible, if the legend has been around for so long, then to many people it adds authenticity to the claim. In a sense, people believe in myths like this because it is clear that humans a long time ago believed in such myths, and therefore believe today it must be true. However, these myths were started at a time when the human race was very primitive. At these early primitive times, virtually nobody could read and write, and the human race was therefore very gullible. If you are gullible yourself, and are living in a time of gullible people who are spreading these stories, then it is to be a self-proclaimed expert on this mythical beast. There is, however, another driving force for the bones are rare, but they are numerous compared to the first and only Bigfoot skeleton in the world. Rich collectors would also bid huge amounts. If the Bigfoot creature is still alive and